Hey everybody, it's Nathan from Savage Lands News. We're coming in this time with a very special guest. Quite possibly somebody who knows more about Rhinar than I do in the current state of this game. Raj is a 9-0 RTN champion. That's right, right?
Yep, that's 100% correct. We got 9
Nine
wins.
9-0 on Rhinar. Everybody's saying Rhinar's out, like he's the worst brute. But yeah, everybody give him a round of applause. 9-0 is quite a feat. Not only did you win the RTN, but you went undefeated. And I saw your lineup. It wasn't like a freebie. You're playing in a pretty heavy shop there with some big names, right?
Yep, we have definitely a really strong area in the Midwest where we got a lot of Wolfpack members. You have a lot of other teams that travel out. It's always pretty competitive nature down there.
Yeah, so killing an RTN in one of the hot spots of Flesh and Blood. And the word on the street is that you are now also a Wolfpack member. Is that true?
Yep, that's 100% correct. Wolfpack was so graciously offered me an invite to the team after many years of working with their teammates up in Indy and then just chatting with them at events and stuff. They finally decided to offer me a spot, which I really appreciate.
That's awesome, right? So you're moving up on the world, got a huge team behind you now, smashing an RTN. So let's, before we dive into the deck tech, which I know everybody's, even myself, is super excited to talk about. Let's talk about a little bit of who you are and how you got here, right? So you just said you're out of the Midwest. So where is that? Where you're based? Is kind of like that central area. What state are you in?
Yep. So I'm currently in Indiana.
Cool.
I'm in like down south of Indy, but I'm from Chicago. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, so just Midwest, born and raised basically my entire life.
Born in the corn.
Kind of
what I mean? Yeah.
Over
with Dagan.
Molded by the corn.
Molded by the corn. I always have to drop one corn joke for Dagan. Okay. And then how long have you been playing Flesh and Blood? Like, when did you join?
So I started in March of 22 now, so just about 2 years coming up. So I started right around Everfest. I picked up Lexi when I started the game, which is apparently real bad hero when just getting clubbed by Starvo, OTK Viscerize, Oldhams. You're like, maybe I should swap heroes. I ended up swapping shortly after the chain though. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I came in the game on Levia, so I get it, right? It was like,
yeah.
I think I need to switch.
Yeah.
Did you play any other TCGs before this game, or is this your first one?
No, it's not my first one. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. Pokemon was more like a casual thing. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For about 15 years. I actually got really competitive around like 2019, 2020, right before COVID hit. And then
nice timing.
I was really getting, of course, perfect timing always. I won 2 of the regionals in a row, and then boom, COVID closed everything down. So I was like, I can't travel anymore. And then, conveniently enough for me, I actually transitioned into moving to Indiana for graduate school. That's kind of what I'm up to right now.
Oh, cool.
And then there was no Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene down here, so we were looking for a new game to play. And then we kind of stumbled our way around to find Flesh and Blood eventually.
Huh.
So that was a nice little transition.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, very different. I never played a TCG before, so I don't know too much about the other ones. But from what I understand, it's quite a different game state, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! To this one.
Oh yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's like everyone's playing Kano mirrors the whole time, and if you slip up in a Kano mirror, you're basically done. That's kind of how Yu-Gi-Oh is. That's why I like Kano as well. The explosive.
I hate Kano so much. I respect Kano players. I respect the hero. I get it, but like the fear I get when I sit down across from somebody and they flip Kano. Oh my goodness, man! The amount of events that I've just been sandbagged out of on turn 2. Oh, okay. Yeah. Kano's a bit too big brain for me. I like to roll dice and smash things,
I love rolling dice. Just click the button on Talishar. That's all I want to do.
What is it about Talishar where I don't care anymore? It's like, roll scabs. There's no fear.
I can get one whole value scabs.
Yeah. I can send a claw or I can do 14. I'll do both, why not? Why not? It's 3 damage. Why not? You talked about a little bit. You said you'd played Lexi. And then you played Chain. So, what heroes have you really played, and what makes you gravitate towards the hero of your choice? Is it like a theme, or is it like you play who's good right now?
I typically like to play mid-range heroes.
Cool.
So I originally started off playing a lot of aggro-oriented heroes when I started playing a little bit of MTG. I was playing really red-white knights aggro, just spamming ladder type of things.
Yeah.
But in Fab, like I tried Fi. I really like. I mean, Chain is effectively an aggro deck, but he gets to play mid range because of just hand size control. And then Lexi is once the same way where you're very aggressive, but you have 3 of a kind to get you in there. And I kind of liked where Rhinar fit in there, where it's like, oh, I'm not really an aggro deck. I'm a mid range deck, but because of the intimidate mechanic, you can effectively become like a fake aggro deck where you're leaking damage from being an aggro deck, but you're not really an aggro deck. So it kind of gives you the duality of like I can present damage when I need to and damage that sticks in Rhinar's case, conveniently enough.
Yeah.
Because you try to avoid the whole mid-range playstyle. But the funny enough, the opposite thing I don't like about the mid-range playstyle is that when you get to the low life, you kind of get to these grind situations, which is why I picked up Dash for the Columbus event.
Oh, okay.
Where at low life you can get a lot of tempo from just like shooting with pistol, getting a lot of item advantages, and trying to do that. So I typically favor like a mid-range style. I don't like playing fatigue. I hate going to time. Nothing upsets me more than like, I'm playing super fast. We go to time. We're like,
yeah.
Like, how are we gonna get there?
Rhinar isn't the hero going to time, right? Like,
absolutely agreed.
I've only been taking the time one time on Rhinar, and I like looked my opponent in the face and I was like, "This is your fault." Like, you need to understand that you did this, right? Like, I right before the timer's about to go up, I'm like, like this is you. Rhinar doesn't go to time. He either dies or he kills you.
Yep.
But yeah, the mid range playstyle is my favorite too. Although I'm probably a little bit more grindy than you. I like to grind people into the floor a little bit, but I don't want to play Oldhim, so I kind of get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then, what made you move to Rhinar right now, especially because like I would say word on the street is that he's the worst brute. And in the last meta, he was probably not very good, even though I tried my best, Lexi was very bad. So in this meta, what made you go to Rhinar over like, Levi or KO, right? Or even Kasai as a mid-range top choice.
Yeah. So funny enough, actually, one of my friends, Bryce, he messaged me one day. He's like, "Rod, you seem like a Rhinar player," because I was kind of like out of a home without Lexi, and I tried Dash at Cincinnati, and I got absolutely butchered by Bolton and Azalea. And he's like, "You should try Rhinar," and I'm like, "No." And then he kept pushing it for like a couple of weeks, and then I'm like, "Okay, I'll try Rhinar out." So then I'm like, "Okay, well, what does Rhinar actually do?" Well, Rhinar's hero text is effectively blank for like 90% of the game.
Yep.
Unfortunately the case. But the thing is, at the end of the game, his hero text can be really good. So I'm like, what if we just make Rhinar, but make it so his hero text does something every time you want to actually use it? So that's kind of the vision I had for the deck and kind of the way I wanted to pilot my matchups. Where instead of playing that low range, low health mid range game that I was saying like I really like playing for Dash, why not just kill my opponent at, I don't know, 15, 20 even?
Yeah.
Why
not?
Why not just ignore that? Because you can drop all the way to like low healths with Rhinar and then get there. Well, comparing it to the other brutes, so KO is like the value brute. If you want to play value, you want to play these long games, I think you should just play KO. I don't think there's a lot of value in trying to build Rhinar for an aggressive like club value deck that I've seen a lot in the Rhinar discords.
Yeah.
That's not really like, I don't think as beneficial as just trying to play KO. Maybe you could get there if you're like scared of playing too many attack actions into like decks like Bolton and things like that, or you're worried more about Azalea. In terms of Levia, I think Levia is like in a fantastic position right now. I think she's extremely powerful, but there's so much nuance with the Levia deck that I was learning with my friend Ben Hannon. He's also on Wolfpack. He just talks about how many nuances there are in the matchups and like all the small like little details you have to make sure you're managing throughout the entire game state.
Yeah.
Where it's like a new player can't really pick up this deck effectively and bring it to like an RTN or a ProQuest or even a larger event without hundreds and hundreds of games of reps. And like one of the biggest decision points is always like, if I make this play now, will I have enough graveyard for later? Right. And with Rhinar, I was still getting pretty good values. Like I can get like 14, 15 value per game pretty consistently on most of my Talishar games and like even in paper games. Like Levia can push that barrier a bit higher, but the flexibility of Rhinar not having to worry about blood debt, on top of having amazing armor, just like the other brutes do, but having the flexibility to kill at a much higher health total, just like boom out of the blue. That's really what drew me to Rhinar in the end.
Yeah, I really like that the way you phrase that too, because I mean, like I've always valued Rhinar as like a weird. He's like a value deck that cheats almost, like because a lot of people ask me like why would you pick a hero like that? And it's basically what you said. It's like, okay, I'm playing the value game 90% of the time. But then I'm going to find one turn where I break the rules of the game. And that's typically like a double intimidate Blood Rush Bellow turn. It's like you starting the game at 30. I start the game at like 59 health. Like
Hmm.
It's kind of like a weird like dichotomy where it's like you just find that cheat turn and then suddenly you're not really just like this value deck anymore. You're breaking the rules, which I always liked. And so, you got into Rhinar now. You played a lot of these like mid-range heroes, some of the aggressive heroes in the beginning. Like now that you've won an RTN and you've joined a big team, like what are your future goals in Flesh and Blood?
I'm really trying to get like a top 8 at a major event.
Ooh,
So
okay.
at calling Baltimore, I lost my win in to, funny enough, another one of my Wolfpack team members, Merrick Kemp, who ended up winning the whole thing.
I
There's
love
several
Merrick,
other
dude.
times.
I
Merrick
love
is a
Merrick.
great guy.
He's a
He's super
great
fun.
dude. I love him. Yeah, nice human
On
being.
top of that, there's so many times where like I'm in playing battle hard in top 8s where I just like not, I can't like finish the job in the tournament. I just really just want to either like win a battle hard and top 8 a major event, really just like solidify that like okay, I can really push through when the going gets tough.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for.
Is there one that you're signed up for already? You're really pushing for, like any of the upcoming? Are you traveling? Do you have anything on the calendar, like the next big event you're going to be at?
Pro Tour LA.
Okay,
I got
perfect.
my flight booked yesterday.
Hell
I
yeah.
got the time off work. I'm ready to show up.
Boom.
We're
That
hanging with the Wolfpack there.
that's going to be
I'm
sick.
excited.
I wish I could go. It's on my wedding day, but that's fine.
Yeah,
Ethan will be there
priorities. Yeah,
streaming the event. It'll be cool.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
well, I hope you do well there, especially like
Thank you.
drafting Brute. I mean, Rhinar isn't particularly great in the draft set this
Yep.
time around. I would say KO is like 99% of the time better, but Brute's in there, so you can feel it's cool when you get like your hero shows up in draft because you can kind of
Yep.
like your like your brain's 100%
14
there.
rounds of Rhinar.
Yeah, you're
The
like 14
dream.
rounds of Brute. Like I kind of get it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I mean, that's amazing. So I think next thing we got to do is jump into the deck tech because I think I have
Absolutely.
100,000 questions for you. Like I
I
said,
got 100,000 answers.
oh, I can't wait. I'm kind of washed right now. I haven't been playing that much. I put all my time into KO because everybody on the internet told me to.
That's fair.
Then I went to my first RTN here and I scrubbed out immediately, threw KO in the trash can. And then I went on the internet and I asked my buddy Chandler. I was like, hey, man, like I'm at a loss. Give me a Rhinar list. And he gave me one. I took it in and I got top 4.
Okay, let's go.
But I don't know how I did it. I need to hear what you did because like I looked at your list and I was like, this is the stuff I need to see. All right, let's dive into it. All right, we have his deck list in front of us, and I can't wait to dive into it. Look at this beautiful list and this beautiful brain who created it. So, I mean, we're going to take a look at the armor real quick. However, I think it's pretty standard. But what are your thoughts right now on Apex Bonebreaker?
I think Apex Bonebreaker actually like really shores up the gap where you were playing like weird arms before, like either like Goliath Gauntlet or Gambler's Glove into most matchups. I think just a 3 block typically gets 5 value from the 2 mites. Rhinar is a bit trickier in Rhinar to get the mites a lot of the time because you'll only be blocking with those weird non-attacks if you're going for blood rushes or things like that. But I just think Apex Bonebreaker really just pushed this deck over the top, especially when you can pair the mites with like CNCs and things like that to gain a lot of tempo or even send packing. I think Apex Bonebreaker is probably the second best legendary in this list.
Yeah. At first I was having like Gambler's Gloves withdrawal,
Yeah.
because all of the old lists I played pretty much revolved around like Blood Rush Bellows and then Savage Feast combos. Like it was one of the two that took you across the line. And so I was looking at Savage Feast, which is like one of my all-time favorite cards, and I was like, I can't play this anymore, so I don't know if I like Rhinar anymore. But then I brought it to the tournament, and I was like, man, this is nuts. These arms are stupid, so much value. And then you're a Tunic gamer, not a cross-strap gamer, right? So
no, I think you have to have Tunic because a lot of the play patterns in this deck go like, I'm stuck on 2 reds or something. Either just pitch a blue, go claw into 2 cost, or go Tunic Blood Rush with just like Blood Rush and a 6 attack at late game. Pretty much gets you tempo a lot of the time. I think you just need Tunic. It's just so good.
Yeah, Tunic Blood Rush is like a lot of the time a 2-card 10, which is really powerful in the end game, right? Really powerful. And then you have Gambler's Gloves on the sideboard. I would assume for Illusionist. Anybody else?
It's only for Prism. I don't play it into Dromai. I don't think you need it into Dromai, but I need to test more with like other Dromai specialists like Mara.
I'm a big Gambler's believer for Dromai too, because there is always that one turn where they go like Chromai, Mirror Guide passing, and you're like, oh god,
like,
but I get it. Prism is like the real problem, right? Like
Yep.
I actually lost to a Prism on KO the other day, and I was like, huh, I guess I have to learn what this hero does now. You know, she's real.
Unfortunate.
She's a real deck again, and it's scary. Mandible Claws, I assume because it's just like the highest value weapon in the game.
Yep. It's better. It's better than club. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry to
Sorry,
everybody at
Nathan.
home. There's a lot of people who are really pushing club right now, but and then you go no rune gloves, which I did for a very long time. I switched to cape, and then went back to gloves, and I go back and forth. But why gloves over like any other spot?
I think so. I'm only playing the null rune gloves basically just into Viserai and Kano. Viserai basically a dead hero though, so just Kano
Yes.
mostly.
Yep.
You really need obviously you need Tunic into Kano. It just helps you just float an extra resource just in case. Helps you oftentimes if you're blood rushing against Kano, if you're showing like an extra card, it's better just to Tunic blood rush and then try to hold it. Try to hold more information.
Oh, interesting.
Because like
Okay.
if you have to pitch a red or a yellow, then they're kind of know you're on less resources. But if you're tunicking, you're kind of just like getting them a bit more blind about what's going on in the situation.
I like
Especially
that.
if you discard a blue, you can
Yeah.
really intimidate them that you just like triple blue hand or something.
Huh. I really like that. The reason I switched to cape, I mean, I've gone back and forth, is that like at Pro Tour Baltimore or whatever it was at Baltimore, I forgot. Well, okay, I disrespected Wizard entirely.
Sure.
I was like, Icelander's a dead hero. We're fine. It's all Lexi. So I took all my AB out of my list, and then of course I hit 2 Icelanders.
Hey.
And in those games, I just had my regular equipment suite, and I rolled Scabskins so much because I had Gambler's Gloves up that I like blew them out of the water with no arcane barrier.
Okay, sure.
And so then I was like, hey, if I just roll every turn on purpose into Kano and to Icelander, but still have AB3,
yeah.
like it's like against Kano, like if you just say I'm going to activate Scabskins, like they're not going to pop off right then because it doesn't matter, and you still have your 4-card hand. So if they pop off on Scabskins, it doesn't matter. If you roll a 1, you have a 4-card hand that you just AB.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like, I found that like just throwing the Gambler's Gloves all the time, I don't know, but
well, I think for that exact reason, you don't need Gambler's Glove against Kano because
middle of my sentence, I was like, wow, that's a stupid thing to say out loud. I like pretty much disproved myself mid-tier, but like, yes, you're right. Huh.
Okay.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. But it was just like, I built this weird confidence. I was like, Gambler's Gloves means I just destroy wizards in my head. So I think I switched it. I don't know. Great point, though. Maybe I'm dumb. And then Scabbies.
Scabbies was actually very close, like to taking out and playing beaten trackers over it. Actually,
I've thought about it too. Yeah.
I think in this particular list there still might be merit. I didn't have enough testing on beaten tracker, so either like the extra 2 block from scabs versus the beaten trackers guaranteed go again on the turns. I think you'd have to still include scab skins in the list because you just need it against like illusionist and whatnot. But like against like the slower decks, just guaranteeing the extra action point, I think can really push you over the edge a lot of the time.
Valuing that the 2 block, because like it's not just 3 life, it's more, or not just 2 life, it's more like 2 on hits, particularly a lot of the time.
Exactly. Yep.
So valuing 2 on hits sometimes versus like a guaranteed like Savage Feast roll or something huge like that. Yeah, that's a pretty hard equation to math out. Like I could see it going both ways.
Yeah, I think it's something after more testing, like a more matchup dependence thing that will probably iron it out to.
Brutes are getting so flexible. Like it wasn't that long ago where like I put videos out saying we had the worst armor in the game, and now it's like I putting a video saying like we have the best armor in the game. It's such a whiplash.
We're like Runeblade now. We have legendaries all throughout.
Yeah, we're just like we're stacked up. Scowling Fleshbag is like the best armor piece in the whole game, in my opinion.
I think it's very, very, very good. I thought about putting Crown of Providence, thought about putting Balance of Justice.
Yeah.
I just cannot see value in not playing Fleshback into every hero. Yeah. Even against like Bravo and stuff like that, it really just, if they're CNCing, you throw like 1 block armor Fleshback into 3 block on CNC, get rid of the pummel or get rid of the blue to pay for it. You're just completely safe.
Turn off a Zealous Belting Hammer, turn off a Rouse Hammer. Like that's 6 value plus the 2 life it gives you. Like it's crazy.
Because if they're playing just like the big aggro, or if they're just like playing tall into you, like it doesn't matter. Like you can sit there, block them out. You don't really care about most of their on hits a lot of the time. So I think Fleshback is definitely the play there.
And that's Skullhorn. I mean, like AB2 on a stick is strong. Have you ever used? Did you use the text at all once?
I have used the text actually once,
Me too. I
which I
think
don't
like
know
one
was
time.
correct. I did it against Kano after I intimidated. So I intimidated 2 cards already, and they've committed to intimidate. So I just cracked Skullhorn, just draw and discard, intimidate a 3rd card, so that way I could guarantee to kill that turn instead of having to
Yeah.
wait an extra turn.
That's like the only time it's useful is like if you've gotten rid of most of their hand already.
Yep.
And then there's that 1 in 3 chance that it ruins your turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brute life.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're getting into the meat and potatoes here. So it looks like you're on a pretty standard amount of blues. You're a little higher than I run, but like that's fine because 20 blues makes a lot of sense. This is 20 blues, right? 3,
I
6,
believe
9,
so.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yep, 20. Okay, so I like to start with the blue options because a lot of the time they're kind of like not super powerful in Rhinar. They've always been like our weakest. I mean, of course they're weak, but like our blues are especially useless most of the time. Barraging is probably our strongest blue. What do you think?
I would say probably 2nd strongest blue,
Ooh,
or 3rd strongest blue, I think.
Third behind what? Reckless?
Dig up dinner and talk a big game.
Damn, not even reckless. Okay, all right. Give
No.
me your blue professor insights here. Why?
Okay.
Why do you think that it's like talk a big game is above barraging beatdown, which is crazy to me?
I think talk a big game. So I think when you read talk a big game, you're like, oh, this card, my opponent's just gonna block. But when you're playing this Rhinar deck, all you want your opponent to do is block. If they're throwing 2 cards at you, you're like, cool, here's 2 cards to block, or let me chuck armor in front of this to stall. So
Yeah.
like on the weekend, I was versing a KO. My opening hand was blue, talk a big game, and show no mercy. I roll scabs with no fear. We hit a 6. Luckily, I only needed a 4 to do anything. 1 would have been pretty catastrophic, but you play brute. You gotta roll the dice.
Yeah, you do it right.
So you go talk a big game, swing claw for 3, calling 3 on talk a big game. They have to respect it now. Because you give me a card or armor, you give me armor. My win condition is getting closer. He gives me scab skins. I throw show no mercy for 6. He no blocks it, and then takes 6. I get 3 mites. I get 12 value hand with triple blue yellow without natural go again. Like if I had 2 6s in my hand, sure, but what 3 blues plus 1 6 power are you really getting like that much value out of? And I've had situations where talk a big game becomes a really good 5th card in your hand when you're blood rushing. So it's like, oh, you drew an extra blue. You can go like claw. They block 1, block 1. Then you go in. Then you have like an intimidate finisher. You go talk a big game, call 6, throw the finisher. You're like, okay, cool. Just I get 6 mites for next turn.
It's 12 value. And then I mean it's still a blue block 3 as its floor, which is wonderful, right?
Yep.
So
and it's a non-attack action, so it helps a lot against Bolton and other decks like that.
Yeah, and this meta too,
all the
non-attack
warriors
actions are good because Kasai is starting to become like a big. I think Kasai is going to move up as a top tier deck soon.
I agree.
And then how did like so would you arsenal this card or like how it like if you because there's always that weird Rhinar stuff where it's like okay you have 1 extra card. Sometimes you know no action points to give yourself to go again. So it's like, is this an arsenal target for you? Or is this a pitch card 90% of the time?
Oh, it's a bitch card 90% of the time.
Okay.
There's I arsenaled it 1 time, and that was actually in the Blood Rush line that I was just telling you about because I had a pitch stacked Blood Rush hand coming up, and I knew that Talk a Big Game was going to get played into that hand.
That's hot. Okay.
So it just works out that way.
So this is just your game plan. I mean, like I'm assuming we didn't really get into the general idea, so I think talking about the game plan is probably important. But I'm assuming your game plan is to stall until you blood rush 3 times, or something along those lines, right? Like, what is your game plan when you play this deck?
So I'm typically trying to play like some kind of either value. I don't want to block out per se. I want to typically try to play value with you, but most of the time my value is going to be blocking out, unfortunately, because I mean your card swings 6, deal 6, block 6. I'd rather just block 6 in those situations. You're trying to get their armor is like the biggest goal. So a lot of times, or trying to make awkward blocks with barraging beatdowns. So you're playing hands where you go like barraging pack hunt or something if they're off arsenal. You just leak damage. So your goal is first leak damage down to about 25, get their armor. As soon as they're at like 26 on the top end, like if you're really gonna get high roll, but like 20 to 21, you can kill it from 21 pretty consistently. Yeah. So I say we'll get them to that range, and you're pretty safe to kill. Some heroes you can get them like you'll get them to like 15 to 18 naturally, and then they'll die pretty quickly from there.
Yeah. So okay, that makes a lot of sense. But
yeah, so the whole game plan is just do that. You don't ever want to like play hard value, play block out for only blood rushes, because a lot of time your blood rushes are going to get pretty targeted by CNCs if they see you like really hard bunkering. You don't want to give your opponent infinite time to like effectively play. Say you're not seeing your blood rushes to late game, you still need to apply pressure. And I think that's something that a lot of people do, where you're just like, oh, block next hand, block next hand, but then they're actually just setting up like a death ball in their pitch stack.
Yeah, I really like that. Like the new that concept of like kill from 21. Like I think that's really interesting because the list I played was an all intimidate list. Is Chandler's list? He like the one he let me borrow. So it's all yellow barragings, blue barragings, every card in the game that says intimidate on it.
Yep.
And like in this meta, it feels super powerful. Like
agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I killed the Dromai from 21. You know, like it was just over. It was like triple intim and 21 damage. You know, or I think it was like 28. But it's crazy. Okay, so I like that concept. And then your other blue options, you said Dig Up Dinner is really, really high on you, on your like respect. Why is that?
I think Dig Up Dinner actually comes up so much where you can just shuffle junk into your deck, gain life, and a lot of the time, like if you have the extra blue, it's actually a playable blue that's doing something.
Yeah.
Like blue barraging is good. Like it'll get cards in your opponent's hand, but it's only 2 damage, so they're really not scared too much. Well, Dig Up Dinner actually tries to buy you more space throughout the game by gaining you the life. And you just pitch blue, Dig Up Dinner, claw, and it's like that like it's bad. It's 2 card 3 and like presumably gain 3 ideally,
Maybe,
but
yeah.
Sometimes it'll buys you more threats in the deck because you'll see the threat density is actually quite low in this deck outside of Blood Rush itself.
Okay. So you got like it just plays in your game plan, right? Like stay alive and bring you value, right? And so then you have your 2 Reckless Swings, which is my favorite blue in the game, you know. Warmongers because Azalea exists probably. Viscerai also is not my favorite, even though they're not played that often, but
it's also great in a Warrior now if they're trying to play like the blank go again stuff. I know a lot of the Bolton lists are playing like Slice and Dice, like other like weird things like that.
Okay.
So it buys you space every now and then.
And then you got your 1 Sand Sketch plan.
So everyone hates it. Everyone's like, just put the 3rd High Roller in. I'm like, no, trust. Sometimes you need the Sand Sketch plan. So I put 1 in the list because it gives you the most amount of options in the game.
It does.
I don't like 2 or 3 because I really don't want to see it because I can't play the card always. But one of it's like sometimes I need it and it's there when I need it. That's all I need.
I had it. The list I played had 3 in it, and I was like, I've never ever ran 3 of these before. And it actually came up. Like the one time I wanted to use it, it won me the game on the spot. You know, like I just drew it with like 2 blue Rekka Romps and something else, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I win no matter what. You know, like it just Tunic and a blue is 12 damage with an Intimidate and Claws.
Absolutely.
Okay, so your blue is pretty standard. I mean, talk a big game. I have not tested with this card at all, so I'm really excited to put this on my list. I like what you're saying. I like that a lot.
Oh, I did one goofy thing in testing that I've never pulled off in paper. Was the double intimidate, the red barraging pack hunt, but I had to talk a big game on it too.
Damn, that could be a lot of my tokens.
They were just like, good night.
Yeah. Jeez, that could be like, I mean, if they don't have any armor, that's like what, 12?
Yeah, you usually probably at least 8 to 10 mites.
That's nuts. Okay, I'm gonna try it. I mean, it just seems like it has the chance to high roll, and then is a blue block 3. Like, that's enough of it.
Its floor is so good.
Yeah,
its floor is so high.
Yeah, that's really good. And then yellows, you run. Okay, I thought this was really interesting when I was looking at your list. Your main board is Blood Rush, of course, Beast Wind because high roll possibility. Assault and Battery. I have also not really messed around with this card too much. And then Agile at Windup, which is I love that card. But your main board is pretty low on yellows, but you do have some in the sideboard. Is that just because you switch between Send Packing and Smash Instinct, or do you sometimes not run that many yellows?
I typically I've been mostly swapping Send Packing for Assault and Battery lately as I've gotten more comfortable with the list and not needed the extra agility that Assault and Battery offers me.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I pretty much stick with that yellows and mostly just board reds in. I don't feel the need too much. If you're playing matchups that are like, I need to just kill with 3 blood rushes and you're never playing like tempo game plan, you can actually cut back on reds and just board more yellows in. So that way your blood rushes have a higher probability to draw
safer.
Like the amount of pitch. Yeah, they're a lot safer.
Okay. So you'll cut your yellows down in favor of reds to do more damage, to have more tempo, to more like proactive game plan. Okay.
Yep.
And then when do you decide like that the yellows are coming in, or do you literally just swap these assault and batteries out most of the time?
I mostly swap them out. I play Send Packing to every matchup now, so I basically swapped assault and battery at Send Packing now after some more testing. I think if you're uncomfortable with the list or like starting out, I think assault and battery is like a good stepways. But Send Packing is almost always coming in because it's just a yellow CNC, a yellow better CNC a lot of the time.
Honestly, this is my new favorite brew card. This card is cracked.
The card is good every single time I see it, and I versed like Fatigue Dory at the RTN through send packing, banished red shunt. He's like, there goes the shunt.
There goes the shunt. I was doing like barraging send packing from Arsenal, and it's
so good.
And you peg a D-React out of the pocket, you're like, this is so much infinite value. I don't even know what to do with myself.
Yes.
And that 21 damage Blood Rush turn was barraging, Blood Rush, Bellows, Claw, send packing, and I got something out of the Arsenal too, and I was like, oh my god, the value. The value. Okay. Okay, really interesting. I like that. And then when do you run Smash Instinct? Fatigue, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's Fatigue and it's Kano. That's basically it.
Oh, Kano, cool. Okay, makes a lot of sense.
A lot of the time, I feel like. I feel like.
Okay, continue.
Oh, we go back. Okay.
There we go.
A lot of the time, you don't need Smash Instinct. This list is actually 77 cards. I'm like, I need to put 3 more cards on this list. I just threw 3 Smash Instinct in.
Dude, I literally felt the exact same way. I had like 2 sideboard cards in my list that I didn't actually play once. Yeah. I was just like, I don't know what to put in here. Let's throw some Fates and I don't know, like something else, Interesting. The core of Rhinar, honestly,
this deck could be like 62 cards, I think. I'm pretty sure, and like you don't need anything else. Like
I make that joke with Rhinar all the time. Like when people are like, how do you build them? Like honestly, just stick whatever the freaking blues you want in there. Stick anything that says 6 and is yellow in there, and then stick the best reds in the game. Like your blues and your yellows don't almost ever impact your game plan.
No, I would disagree with that. I think the blues are the best part of the Rhinar deck.
Oh, you're crazy. Okay, well, I
the only blue I don't like is High Roller, but I don't know what else to play in its spot.
Yeah, there's not much else.
There was at one time I had a High Roller in my hand, and I'm like, I want to make this card good, and it's really tempting me to try and roll the scabs for the 6.
Back when we had Gambler's Gloves,
mental space,
you could just do it. Sometimes that's fair. You just roll for the high roll. You know what card I'm looking at? People are gonna make fun of me. Ripple Away.
No. Ripple Away. I'm with you there. Ripple Away is good.
Yo, I'm pretty sold on Ripple Away being cracked.
I think you can juice KO players with Ripple Away because they ever do their cast bones turn.
Flick it
Ripple
off the table, dude.
Yep.
Get that agility off my table, dude. Yep. Or like Azalea when it's like Blood Rot Arrow, Blood Rot Pox, kill your Arsenal, whatever, and then you're like, okay, all of that's gone. I get to keep my Blood Rush. Like, that's amazing to me, just for Azalea. And then you can do some stupid stuff like turn off Margin Tide and like reduce copper generation, but I think that would never be as good as blocking 3. But I don't know. Maybe Ripple Away, but yeah, okay. High Roll is just there. You could run Clearing Bellow if you want it to be even worse. That's pretty much your only other options.
That's true.
Okay, I had the reds for me make a lot of sense. But I do have some. I think it's really interesting that you're running like Enlightened Strike and Massacre. So, what's your thought process behind like E-Strike, which I think is like a 50-50 card in most of the Brute community? People love it or they don't like it.
I think E-Strike's like actually just one of the best cards in Fab. It's 2 cards 7 at its like absolute worst a lot of the time. You almost never draw a card in this deck unless you have like an Asper Agility that just like really, really just going to waste otherwise. Then sure, I guess draw a card so you can claw maybe. But I think a lot of the time, especially when I'm cutting down back on the yellows, you draw like triple red hands sometimes. So you need an E-Strike because a lot of the time you're like, no Arsenal, okay, E-Strike for 7, Arsenal one of my finishers, and then it just buys you tempo. It's just above rate card. It's good. It blocks 3.
End game scenario, it's like your safest way to have a go again ever. Like it's if your opponent full blocks, you can finally go wide with an E-Strike.
I think Rhinar lacks extenders, and I think E-Strike is the extender that Rhinar needs.
I agree with you. I had it in my Pro Tour list, then I took it out, then I added it back. I'm always like on the fence about it because it's like one time it ruins my Blood Rush, and I'm like, this card sucks. And then the other 90% of the time, I'm like, this is the best card I have. Yeah. And then Massacre was a really interesting one for me because I saw in the Discord that you wrote like this is one of the best value cards in Rhinar. But I did find it really interesting because you have
I have no discards.
2 discarding cards in the whole list. Maybe that one Alpha Rampage too,
Yeah.
How does this work? Explain to me.
You don't want to discard it. You want to attack with it. It's 8 Intimidate, which is actually very good.
On Blood Rush only.
On Blood Rush turns. Yeah, on Blood Rush only.
Okay.
So it's just like you're looking for cards to Arsenal in the early game that are typically the 3 cost, and then late game you want Arsenal the 2 cost finishers just in case you're pitch light or something. So Massacre is just like Show No Mercy, where it's like, okay, we're gonna Intimidate here on the Blood Rush turn. Show No Mercy is a little bit higher high, but Massacre comes with a higher base power.
Yeah.
Like naturally,
yeah.
if they're like holding, if they're death gripping one card in their hand,
Mm-hmm.
then Massacre is just gonna outvalue Show No Mercy for the exact same cost of the card. But it comes with the occasional flexibility where if somehow you do manage to discard it off like brute attack, then you get the Intimidate, which typically doesn't really happen in this deck. But it comes up with the Alpha Rampage every now and then. I think Massacre is fantastic. 8 power gives me an Intimidate. I'm all in.
I was running red Smash Instincts. So you know, for everybody at home, red version of the Smash Instinct, and I saw your list, and I went to my army. I forgot to do it, but I was gonna write down every time I would have preferred to have Smash Instinct versus preferred to have Massacre, and do that comparison because like I see where you're coming from. It's just like for me, it was either the consistency of always having the Intimidate on the red 3 or the red 7, or this one becoming a red 8 with an Intimidate, right? Like I could see
Massacre is actually very good with Agile Windup too.
Oh, we have
that cannot be understated.
We have to get into that because I'm really excited to talk about Agile Windup. Oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah, just discard it, make
an agility, and then you got 8 Intimidate on the you have a 3 for 8 Intimidate.
3 for 8 Intimidate with 2 Intimidates and an agility token. That's pretty good value.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you said Show No Mercy. How are you liking this card? Because it overperformed from what I thought it was initially.
Oh, this card is the only reason I'm on this deck. I love this card.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a
weaker fantastic
Alpha Rampage, and I was kind of wrong.
It's effectively a weaker Alpha Rampage, but it's a way more flexible Alpha Rampage, which is what is really what Rhinar needed. Because 3 cards to play Alpha Rampage is a lot, but Show No Mercy, just 2 cards at its floor. It's a 2-card 6 that's intimidating. It's making a little bit of a hassle. But if your opponent has like blocked already, chuck more cards. This card just becomes a nasty finisher for pretty low price.
I really enjoyed it. Like I think I'm an Alpha Rampage connoisseur. Even I've always loved this card. It's always been in my list, even when people said it was really bad. Like, but I was playing both, and I loved it. Like it felt like I was never. I always had the opportunity to present unblockable damage. Like it felt forever, you know. Yep. But yeah, this at the end of a Blood Rush. Oh my goodness, it's delicious.
Oh, it's so good. It's a chef's kiss.
4-card 21. And then Skullcrack here. You have Skullcrack and Pack Hunt. They're just good reds, right? Like, is there any?
They're specifically 2-cost.
Yes.
Which is very important because on your Blood Rush going claw. A 2-cost finisher is very important a lot of the time. Or going blue with an agility and tunic counter, you get the either 2 6s or a claw and 6. So you're getting like 2-card 9s effectively there.
Yeah,
with if you have the agility up, or 2-card 12s or 3-card 12s.
Yeah, I've done a video about the math of Blood Rush and how tight the curve is, right? Like, so 2 costs are super imperative to having a safe Blood Rush, right? You can really only Blood Rush with a 3-card in your 3-cost in your arsenal if you have a blue and you have tunic. Like, it's technically possible to do it without it, but like the likelihood is pretty much 0, you know.
Agreed.
Unless you draw 2 blues. Okay. So, and then swing big, cards broken.
I would play 12 if I could.
I would play literally, all of my reds might be swing bigs, except for the Warrior Mirror. I played it into Kasai, and I almost wanted to take it out of the deck.
Really? I actually found it's pretty nice in a Kasai because they can't just give me dynamos. They have to give me They have to give me either one of the 2 block pieces and 2 cards, which is like cool. I'll take your cards any day because their power is like, okay, I'm gonna throw thing. Maybe I block, maybe I don't. Probably you never block the empty thing. They give it go again. You block the second swing, and you're like, cool. I took 6 damage because you held 2 cards. Like I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I guess so. I just kept giving. They got a Quicken token every time, and then they abused it, and I felt really like awkward giving them a Quicken token every time.
Sure.
I don't know. I played my first ever Kasai Rhinar game that day. So I was learning on the fly, and I was like, okay. So if you think it's good, I guess ripping armor is part of your game plan, right? So, okay.
It's doing that. Unless you want to give me 3 cards. I'm always down if you give me 3
3 cards for a Quicken token. Okay. And then I think that's everything in the main board. And so, like you said, your game plan is to rip armor, get them low enough, do that 21 damage unblockable turn, 13 damage unblockable turn, and then find it and play your Blood Rush as well, right?
Yep.
The
Pretty
piece of
simple.
the list that I'm really excited to talk to you about is agility. Because
Okay.
I was trying to solve the agility equation with Rhinar for a little bit. I just didn't have very much time, and I could not figure it out. I could not find out when you wanted to make it, when it was safe to make it, how you capitalize on the
Hmm.
agility you've created. And so I saw that you have, your three-ish agility
Yeah,
generators, and
yeah.
then you have runner
Yep.
runner. So like, what's your agility strategy?
Typically, so originally I had it in for other mid-range decks where it's like, okay, I need to go a bit wider on like turns I'm going into Blood Rush, so I don't have to start on Claw. So typically you want to set up the agility the turn before you're going to Blood Rush. So it's like, okay, I got a Blood Rush and Arsenal ready to go. I have this lead with speed, or say I have Agile Windup or an Assault and Battery. Okay, next turn I'm going to set up Go Again. That way you can go Blood Rush into like a normal like Intimidate attack, Claw finisher off like a
Mm-hmm.
full like 5 card grip, trying to really like cheese it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the main situation. The other situation is because Agile Windup's a 2 block, it's actually just going to be stuck in your deck the whole game until you decide to discard it or attack with it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And what you try to do is set up a runner like an arsenal towards the end of the game. So that way, when you get the Agile Windup, you can go for like the Massacre line where you just chuck Massacre, discard Agile Windup, double Intimidate, attack them. They typically have to give you the 2 cards. Their hand's not great. And then you get then you get Pitch Blue, runner, Claw. And then the turn after, now you have Claw into like a big attack if you can keep the pressure on like that. And I found
Interesting.
like trying to extend the late game and not playing it early game. I think that was the mistake I made at first with it, where I was trying to play a lot of agility early game, and I was just taking damage to do like mediocre turns. And I'm like,
Yeah.
none of this damage is sticking. It's not really good. So it's like if I can hold it for later, it's better. I've
Hmm.
actually not liked lead with speed at all. It was overperforming in testing at the start, but the more comfortable I got with the deck, the less I actually wanted lead with the speed in the deck. And I'm thinking
Yeah.
about cutting it because a lot of the time it's like this is a red card that blocks 2, which is really bad. Like at
Yes.
least Agile Windups is swinging 3 back, so it's always getting 3 value. Lead with speed can actually just be dead in your hand, or it's like, here's 2 block, I guess. Because if you have like a triple red hand, and then you have like a blue, you want to pitch the blue, throw the 3 for 8, 3 for 6, or whatever you're trying to do there. And lead with speed is also really bad if you draw it off Blood Rush. So I've been liking lead with speed less and less for those cases. I think
Yeah.
I'd probably keep at least one in the deck for flexibility against like hard fatigue decks, but otherwise I don't think it has a great spot in this deck. Runner gets activated almost entirely by the Agile Windups, and I'm more than happy to keep it that way. It's
Okay.
also a 2 for 6 brute card, which is
Yeah.
very important
It
to the
just
game
blood
plan.
rushes, right? Like, yeah.
Yep.
If it fits the blood rush curve perfectly. Okay,
Hmm.
I mean that's what. Yeah, because I was also looking at like your list, and it's like you do really only have 3 targets that are 2 cost anyways. So
Yep.
it's like when I was seeing these here, I was like, okay, wow, you really have to find the lineup with these 3 cards, or it's like
Hmm.
it is a 2 card 6 on claw that makes an agility token, which I guess is like acceptable. Um,
Yeah. That's basically every time I had to play it this weekend was like it's a 2 card 6. I'm like, I don't like this card because I didn't want to block with it because it's a 2 block.
yeah, so you're stuck with like a blue and lead with speed, and you claw, I guess, for 6, right?
Sure. Yep.
I mean, and then, yeah, because when I was trying to make agility work, my problem was like pretty much what you said. Like, okay, I go through this extra effort to make this agility token. And
Hmm.
then I arsenal a pass, and my opponent's like, here's a hand that you should block. And it's like, oh, okay, so do I just take 12 to 15 life so I can use my agility token here? Or do I
Hmm.
like give up the agility token, And it was such a weird dichotomy that like you said, I think maybe I was pushing for it too early. Like it's more of like a late game choice.
Yeah.
How often did you activate assault and battery?
0 times
That's okay.
this weekend.
Okay. I can't find the space to sacrifice 1 card for an agility token.
The only time you're gonna do it is like you're either barraging with it, and then you just like, okay, I need extra intimidate, and then I want the agility for next turn. If your opponent's kind of just like trying to block you out for some reason, or
Fatigue
like
or
you're versing
something.
fatiguey decks, yeah,
Mhm.
then assault and battery really comes in clutch to get you the consistent go agains from there. But outside of that, I think the card is such a good utility. It's a yellow, it's a 6. It can make an agility in a pinch if you're really getting like in weird situations.
Yeah.
But outside that, it blocks 3.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot of the yellows, right? Like
Yep.
but at least before it was like it says 6 and it costs 3. Like at least it doesn't
Yeah.
discard.
Yep.
Agile Windup's like our first ever like interesting yellow that's not
Hmm.
Blood Rush or Beast Within.
Yep.
Okay. And then your sideboard, I mean, aside from the agility package, which I'm really excited that we talked about, you've got your Arsenal hate cards.
Yep. Love them.
Why are they, like why are they not main board? Like normally I see CNC like pretty much main board.
Send packing is basically main board. I would say it is main board, in fact.
Okay, switched.
You probably swap the assault battery and send packings.
Mm-hmm.
The CNC, I actually don't like CNC that much lately. It's good into the fatigue decks. It's good into decks that really need their arsenal. But if you're versing like aggro or something, most of the time they're smart enough to be like, okay, Brute's really only on hit is going to be arsenal hate, especially now with send packing. Yeah. So they're going to try to avoid just playing into that. It's like the Phi Bravo game plan too, where you just kind of just avoid ever arsening and just keep pressure up. So if you blood rush and find CNC, it's like, I missed 2 damage now for no reason.
Yeah, and I mean you also
that was like the big thing.
You run E-Strike too, so it's like you are double dipping, like I said, like on the you would be double dipping on the non-brute, which means like it'll happen ever so slightly more, and it'll become ever so slightly more annoying.
Especially with Brojings as well, because I also have all of those I have the 6 Brojing.
Yeah, actually, I noticed that over this last weekend, exactly what you said, because I was running both main board. It was like my opponent just at one point was like, oh, I'm not gonna Arsenal anymore. Like, what a waste of my time, So then these cards just became 2 block red 6s. Or sorry, 3 block red 6s that cost 2. Like, yeah. And then you have 1 alpha. I love it. Why is it there?
You just need 1. I think I'm actually adding Savage Beatdown to this list after testing more.
Yes, Savage Beat. People are sleeping on that card right now. That card is hot.
I definitely like spaced on Savage Beatdown's existence, but the more I played the deck this weekend, I'm like, a lot of times I'm blood rushing with 5, and I'm just like throwing my arsenal as my finisher, then I'm just getting a new arsenal, a new finisher. But I'm like, if I had Savage Beatdown here, you just die instead. Like, I want to just kill you.
Also, Savage Beatdown, Agile Windup is a 4-card 12 double Intimidate, make an agility token. It's so hot.
It's so good.
I ran it in KO because you have double the Agile Windup, so you could make Savage Beatdown live forever. Mm-hmm. It's hot. I don't know why more people aren't running it. Like, that card does dumb damage.
I think I would play at least 1. I'll have to test if 2 is worthwhile. I never want to break on the situation where, again, I have too many reds and not like I have like these conditional reds that are doing things, because I still want to have functional hands if my opponents aren't throwing too much like into me, where I can block 1 card, 2 card, have like the flexibility of that. It's kind of like the mentality I played Lexi. It's like, can I play 1 card, 2 card, 3 card, 4 card, 5 card, 6 card hands with Lexi? Mm-hmm. It's like the same concept here. It's like, I need to be able to play like 1 through 5 card hands as Rhinar pretty consistently, and Savage Beatdown was like not lending to that in theory, but it actually it just hits so much harder like on a blood rush, where it's like the high is worth the pain of it. Probably
it is every hoop you have to jump through in the whole game. Like, it is one of the most complicated cards to get off. It's like you sometimes you commit really early, you put it in your arsenal, you find the blood rush, and like you just don't have the 24 damage blood rush. Like, that's the downside, is like if you're 1 resource short, you're like, man, this could have been anything else. This could have been any other card in the game, and I would have been happier right now.
I could see a situation where you play the Savage Beatdown and you actually just swap some of the reds out for yellows and play like the more yellow heavy list like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. I think that could function, because the pitch curve is pretty similar to, the pitch curve is basically the same as playing like Show No Mercy and stuff. If you have like the end 1 card in your hand where you're just arsenaling it, which happens quite a bit often. Yeah. I just think you have to blood rush on the Tunic turns for those situations. But I think that's just a customary for Rhinar, just to be safe.
It has to,
unless you know the exact ratios.
And you have to be really willing to eat a lot of damage to send a lot of damage back, like.
Well, that's the thing. We're not sending damage. We're killing them.
Ah, true. It is a late game. Yep. It's a late game scenario. Yep. Yeah. Okay. It's your closing.
Yeah. You never want to take damage to deal damage. Really, you want to take damage to like get damage to stick.
Got it.
You want damage that's actually gonna impact the game and not just get chumped by 2 bad cards in their opponent's hand. You don't want to play mid range with them.
Yeah, you don't want to trade 24 damage for Katsu's 30 damage turn. Like, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then you have your 3 sinks, which like any particular matchups you're running those into?
I think it's probably just like the normal suspects and other brutes. It's a 4 block. It's good. The biggest thing is like if you're on lean 60, it basically cuts you. Finds you blood rushes faster. Mm-hmm. I thought about playing Gorg Tome and Tome of Findle. I tested it for a while. They're cute. They work. They block 2 and block 0, so it got a little awkward in some matchups because it's like, how fast can I just find my blood rushes? Tome was a bit more of a liability because if you drew it off blood rush, it only pitches 2 and it was kind of bad a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I like Gorg Tome more than I like Tome of Findle, but Sync Blow serves a purpose. I used to play 2 Fates as well.
I love Tome of Findle. I love that. I would never play it without Gambler's Gloves ever. But
I wonder if you could play with beaten trackers. on the Blood Rush turn. Tome and
Um,
Arsenal, play Blood Rush, go Toma Findle with the extra action play, draw 2 more, gain 4, then go Claw, Finisher, and then Arsenal.
you could if you want. I always ran one copy. I never ran more than one copy. I think actually at one point I ran two, but like it does give you. It was super nuts in the Oldhim meta. It was
Mm-hmm.
absolutely cracked in the Oldhim meta because like you could just literally keep your hand because they probably did nothing. You pitch a
Yep.
blue, you heal for 5 or 6, and then you just send your like Alpha Rampage for 9, and it's like
Yep.
you just made so much value off of like a 2-3
Mm-hmm.
card hand.
That
I
makes sense.
Without gamblers, I'd be very afraid. But like you said, I mean, then you're asking a lot of questions. It's like, do you have any arsenal? Do you have your boots still available? Did you draw Blood Rush? Were you able to
Yep.
fire Blood Rush? I mean, but
Yep.
it would be freaking sick.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is it needs to be an Arsenal, and you just have so many cards in your deck that already want to be an Arsenal.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I think the number one fault people make when they're playing, like my list specifically, or even like Rhinar in general, is you Arsenal the wrong card, you can actually just immediately lose the game.
Yeah, you die on the
Like,
spot.
yep, you have no Crown of Providence, you have no get out of jail free card anymore. You will just lose.
Yeah.
Like you put a beast within your arsenal, there's a pretty high chance you just lost.
I
You clear
was
the game.
just gonna say that. Yeah, like the amount of times I've seen people like pocket something like this and then they can never get it out and they can never bring
Yep.
value out of their hand ever again. However,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I think one of my games where I almost lost because I put an Alpha Rampage in my arsenal too late in the
Yep.
game cycle. And I ended up
Oh
taking
yeah.
too much damage, and then I had no
Yep.
arsenal for the rest of the game because I was never going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to keep 3 cards to fire it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. So after playing with it 9-0, right? Is there any
Yep.
cards that you're thinking about cutting or swapping out? You kind of mentioned lead with speed, and you kind of said assault and batteries like maybe finding its way a little bit less useful to you. But what
Mm-hmm.
cards do you think you'd cut or change?
I think the three. I think it's funny enough. I think it's the assault and batteries, the smash instincts. I might trim down to one arc smash. I don't really see the value in it right now. I think you play one just to have one kind of like as a threat against them. It's a non-attack. It works. I like to play in a Bolden every now and
I
then, but
love
I
to
need
play
to
in a
actually
Bolton.
test that
It's worth it.
a bit more. I might cut down to 2 sinks because Sink Blow kept bricking a lot of the time. It's like if I have finally have bought my space to go for a go turn and I draw Sink Below, you just fall so flat on your face and then you can't close out the game, and then you get into those low health situations, which really bites. But I don't think that'll probably happen because Sink Blow's floor is just so high in this deck already, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I can accept that if I draw it off Blood Rush.
You know, I actually
Other than
noticed
that,
the same thing with Sync because like the old Rhinars were all 2 cost. Like you only
yes,
really
yep,
played like Alpha Rampage and like you only really pulled it in against Fatigue, right? But it was pretty much all
mm-hmm.
2 cost. As soon as I played the other list over the weekend and I had like Show No Mercies in there. I had my Alpha Rampages. I had like these Send Packings and these like really high priority Arsenal 3 cost cards.
Mm-hmm.
I would draw Sing Off Blood Rush Bellows and I would rage.
Yeah,
You know? It's like
100% agreed. Yep.
it's like the most useless card. You can't get rid of it to an Alpha Rampage. You can't pitch it. It doesn't do anything. And it's like I ended up almost always like to exactly what you said. Like there was a point where I pitched all 3 of my Sink Belows to the bottom of the deck because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to see them.
Yeah,
You know?
yep, absolutely.
And that's the first time I've been playing Rhinar for a long time. That was the first time I've ever looked at Sink Below and been like, wow, this didn't just save my life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this
Yeah,
the 3 curve is what's weird about it.
agreed. I think I might add a third agile windup. I need to test that a bit more. I really liked agile windup like
Uh,
95% of the time I saw it. Sometimes when you need a block, it's kind of detrimental, but I
Yeah.
think I could just sideboard out the third one in those matchups because you always typically want to be on 2. That might be where I'm leaning towards. I don't know for sure. I think the assault and batteries probably are going to go. The smash instincts probably are going to go. 1 to 2 lead with speeds will go, and then probably add a bit more what we were talking about, like the agile windups, the savage beatdown, maybe slide beaten trackers in for certain matchup situations. I was also
Yeah.
looking to add like things like humble, amnesia, race face.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like their 2 for 6s, I mean they're 2 for 6s. One blocks 3, others block 2, but they're not brutes. Like it's a lot of things that going against these cards, but against the hard aggro decks, they just put in so much weight. Better than throwing like, here's my skull crack or
Right.
something. Like I want to give you something that you actually have to interact with a bit more.
Yeah.
But I don't think
Humble's also
those
strong.
aggro decks. Humble is very strong.
Humble is strong right now. I killed a Levia, like, you know, just like played the game plan, did the quad into him, broke the armor, got him to flip when they really didn't want to flip, and then I CNC pummel or Humble pummeled them, and the game just ended on the spot, you know. It's
Makes sense.
Humble right now is pretty strong. KO strong, Kasai's got an okay hero power. Shuts off Dromai. I don't know.
Hmm?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think those are the major things. Other than that, maybe find a new. Maybe I'll try Ripple Away, like you mentioned, over High Roller, and perhaps depends on the Bolt matchup's feeling.
Yeah.
I think if I need more juice in the KO, that might be where I need to go to. I don't find the KO matchup too hard. I think it's probably closer to 50-50, but a lot of the time I can just get there if they don't high roll me with cast bones a lot of the time.
I
Or
felt
like
like
if they just don't steal the cast bones.
I felt weirdly similar on. I thought the brute mirrors were going to be absolutely terrible, but like if you
Mm-hmm.
execute your game plan effectively, like Rhinar is more flexible. He can block when he wants to block,
Yes.
and they can't do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
like you do, like you said, have the chance to kill him from 20. So it's like if you execute your game plan, you rip their armor away, you make sure they can't flip easily because of all your barragings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, KO might just be the
Also,
one,
you have no variance.
right?
You have very little variance in your deck compared to what KO is pulling. Like
Yeah.
I was testing KO before. You wild ride, you draw the blood rush, you draw the cast bones. You're like, please don't hit it. It hits it anyways. You're like, there goes my game.
That's how I felt. I was like, everybody's telling me how reliable KO was, how strong he is, and I took him to the tournament. And I was like, this is just like, I felt like my deck was going to win or it wasn't. You know,
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
have no
oh
agency as a player.
yeah, you draw your only 3 non-blocks in the entire deck together, and you're like, oh cool, my freight train just came to an end. You know,
Yep.
cool. And then what were your? So you played a lot of heroes, but like, where do you think Reinhardt's positioned right now in the meta? You know, you've got your two big scary brutes that you have to worry about, Leviah, KO.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Kasai, who I think is kind of rising through, and then Kano. Obviously, it really performed well. How do you see Reinhardt's matchups into like those top tier decks?
I think Reiner's fantastic into the brutes. I think it's 50-50 most of the time. You kind of just try to play for skill. The biggest thing is you have the cheese factor. It's like my deck isn't really like I'm behind. Like I verse KO, he cast bones, he scabs cast bones into blood rush,
Ugh,
and then to cast bones into blood rush again. And I'm like, I'm behind. I'm like, anyways, you die from 20.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like you can high roll as much as you want, but I'm gonna kill you when you're at half life.
yeah.
So I
Especially with
think I
those
think that's like a big
non-blocks
edge.
and those
Yep.
2 blocks, right? Like you can just send to send packing, and they might be like, huh, that's a free arsenal for you. You know, like can't block this
Mhm.
without giving you my entire hand. Leviah seems way 50-50 too. I thought I was gonna be purely outclassed by Leviah because like it's similar. They have 6 more health than you. Like
Yep.
but it felt like if you execute the game plan of like forcing them to flip and forcing them to use their husk on the wrong turn, like if you can get them to pop husk before they flip, you can win
Yep.
the game. Like right on the spot.
I think I think the biggest thing in the matchup is not attacking them absent-mindedly because you're
Yeah.
just filling up their grave for them. Because you can intimidate, you can actually deny them a lot of graveyard cards, and then their hands become really, really awkward to play, or it gets them into dicey
Yep.
situations where they have to take damage from Blood Debt, or they're like can't play a handout, things like
Yep.
that.
The first Levi I played, I quad intimed them like repeatedly. And
Hmm.
to the point where their graveyard was so low that they ran out of graveyard and I just passed and they died to blood debt, you know?
Yep.
Like it was beautiful. And then what about Kasai? I've only played the one game against obviously it was against one of our best players in the region. He ended up
Sure.
top to finaling both of the RTNs. He won one of them on Kasai. And I felt like
Okay.
I didn't exactly know what I was doing, but it didn't feel miserable, but I was getting outvalued. So what's your Kasai matchup thought process?
I think which exactly what you said is you're gonna get outvalued the whole fight, so don't let them play value with you. Only like really. So the biggest thing with them and Bolton is like the Dynamo Boltons is if they're on Valiant Dynamo and you attack them, you're literally just giving them free health out of off those dynamos, which most of the time aren't gonna block. Like if you attack them every turn, they're getting 7 to 10 value out of
Mm-hmm.
the game of Dynamo, which is like you're really not gonna claw your way back into that one. But if you just attack them on big intents where they're only getting like one block here, one block here, then a block on your blood rushes per se, it minuses so much of their consistent like damage output and value, and their hands aren't that threatening where you can push through. A big thing is being okay to block with blood rush on their spoils of war turns, and when they're
Yeah.
really trying to generate gold and the coins. Because if you can deny them copper, especially, their blood in their hands is a block 3 the whole game, and
Yep.
then you really don't have to worry about them holding one card, crack courage, play the hand out if they're on the courage lines, or
Mm.
going pitch gold, blood in their hands, and just pop off on you. And I think the matchup's pretty okay. They have a lot of armor. If they're on balance of justice, the matchup gets a lot tougher. A
Ours
lot of them
was
still aren't
horrible.
on balance.
Ours was on balance. It sucked.
Yeah, balance of justice kind of really made this. If balance didn't exist, I think this deck would be like a lot better. But because balance exists, it gets a little bit trickier to get those show no mercy lines. because of the extra extra card in hand. But most of the time they're cracking it on the first Blood Rush anyways, which is like fine. This is a damage Blood Rush, not the killing Blood Rush.
Yeah.
So I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think the matchup is probably maybe I would say like slightly favored, but I think it really comes down to a lot of the nuance of the matchup there.
Okay. Yeah, it felt really weird playing it because I was like, wow, you're doing exactly what I'm doing, but like a little better. You know, you block with 1 more armor a turn, and you're probably doing 1 more damage on your 2 for 7s, and I'm only doing 2 for 6s. You know, like felt like I was just ever so slightly falling behind, and then I messed up on a copper generation turn, and I got punished into the floor because they immediately popped off with blood in our hands. But you know, cool. Is there any matchup that you dread playing right now on this deck?
Dread playing?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think most of the time it's like I don't really care what I play. I'm just gonna execute my game plan. I'm gonna kill you from 20 plus. Like Katsu's a bit scary. Katsu has like 4 or 5 armor. Or 3, like it's like 4 to 5 armor if they're on Tunic, if they're playing cross trap into usually. But it's like that deck is scary because it'll just kill you.
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't really care if you get dishonored either. So it's like, sure.
Yeah,
like I can lose my hero text that really isn't great hero text anyways.
that wasn't going to do much to you anyways as a 2-block deck. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's fine. I think that most of the matchup spread is pretty consistent. Prism, I think, is actually a bit scarier than people give it credit for. As this deck, you're playing 6s, you're not playing 7s, so triumphs get scary. On the flip side, if you and Tim, you're gonna kill all their heralds. You have scabs. You can just chew through their offenses pretty easily. I don't think the matchup is that hard. But you have to be
scarier than it should be. But
it is scary. It is scarier than it should be.
Herald of the main boarding of the 9 triumphs sucks.
Yes,
it sucks. Yeah.
We've tested where you can just like sit there and like kind of just block them out, take occasional 3/4s there, clear the angels out, and then just kill them on 2 blood rush turns because they have actually 32 health and no armor.
Yeah.
Against your decks. So it's like, okay, I'll just ignore it. You just fatigue blood rush 3 times and the game's over.
I actually was testing into it on Club Rhinar just to see. I was able to just club down their angels and never die. But I was also on like 7s and 9s and 8s. So it was like pop club, pop club, right? Like, and then they ran out of cards because half their deck doesn't do anything.
Yep.
Okay.
They also have a lot of no blocks.
Yeah, they have so many. There's so many figment hands, you know. Sometimes 1 barraging just is 4 value. Okay. I mean that makes sense. A very impressive run, man. Like it's such a competitive area. Like I'm really happy to see Rhinar making it into the way of conversations now. You know, especially a 9-0 list, right? Like it's just I'm really excited that my hero is not dead, and I'm glad that you're helping make him even bigger than he was before, right? So,
yep.
Is there any?
He's definitely not dead.
He's not. I know. I'm excited.
I think people got to respect him to some degree. You can't just ignore him.
At
the very least, they got to put balance in for you.
Dude, balance is so annoying. But yes, yeah, it's so annoying. That card, seeing a brute hate card for the first time in my life, I was like, "Is this where we are now?"
Why would you do this to us?
Yeah, I was like,
"Are we Runeblade now?"
Yeah, I was like, "We used to suck. Why are you doing this to me?" You know. But yeah, I took KO to the RTN. I literally thought about just quitting the game. And then then I went home and I was just like, I'm gonna bring the boy out, and now I see a 9-0 Rhinar who put in the work and put in the practice that I didn't put in. I'm so excited. So is there anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to plug real quick before we sign off here?
Yeah, I think I just want to shout out my best friend Aaron Fagaldi for helping me get this whole list, Ryan Rich for a lot of the testing, and then my friend David Rittenback for lending me some of the cards that I didn't have because everything spiked super hard because of KO. Rats KO. Yeah, otherwise, yeah.
And Aaron's the one who told you to play Rhinar?
Oh, Bryce was the one who told me to play Rhinar.
Bryce.
And then Aaron's like, what are we playing? Bryce Troyek.
Bryce Troyek. You legend. Bryce. Told this man to play Rhinar, bullied him into it. Now look at him. So,
now we're gaming.
He's gaming.
We're having real fun.
He's the brute above them all right now. You know, Rhinar only got 4 points. So you're.
Yep.
Are you the only?
I am the only one. Yep.
You're the only one, baby. This is the brute above them all right now, you guys. 9-0. 4 points on the Rhinar leaderboards. Oh man, I can't wait to see you win a freaking battle hardener calling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call my mom.
We'll see. I'm most likely gonna bring it to Pro Tour right now.
Hell yeah.
That's the deck I'm leaning towards.
I'm actually.
We'll see how that shakes out.
Seriously, after playing it, and I was like, wow, this is actually feeling amazing. Intimidate feels so strong right now. It just feels so strong.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
all the
thank you.
aggro decks just disappeared, so yeah, it works.
Yeah, all the stupid decks left the game. So now it's like everybody's kind of playing these value thing, and you're like intimidate breaks value, so it's good. But thanks so much for coming on the channel. Thank you for teaching me about the lessons you've learned building this deck and playing the hero. And I'm excited to see your name on the next big at Pro Tour LA. I hope that you.
Yeah.
I hope to see a Rhinar there at the top. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey man, no worries. Anytime. All right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you around.